Hi guys, it's John back with another anti-guru video, and we are moving on with our sort of sequence of how-tos that I promised this week in the Property Expert Network community group. And this was another one of those that I've been wanting to do for a while, which is looking at my caseload again and having a look at a form of development that's incredibly common, that being the side land extension and conversion to former dwelling. Now, the one I'm picking up here is from my own caseload, and again, I've loaded up some bits and pieces for you to have a look at with me, just so we can reflect upon what's going on. But was for 84 Toronto Road in Bristol. Now, for those of you who work in the Bristol area, you'll know as well as I do just how tough Bristol City Council can be if you get things wrong. So let's start on this site then and work its way forward, first principles all the way through. Now, for those of you who've been watching our Anti-Guru series, you'll remember that we talk about the victory model. The victory model is our sort of codified way of looking at planning prospects. And C in the victory model stands for compare. Has what we're doing been done before? So when we were presented this site, 84 Toronto Road, by the client, the one thing that we did notice right away is that it had been done before. We were dealing with something that had been done before. We've got an extension to the terrace at the far end of this very short terrace block to create an additional dwelling. The other thing we could see from the surrounding area is there was no uniformity in the terraced blocks. There were side extensions, the existing house had a side extension there. There was a range, a pattern, and there was evidence of work being done, infilling going on. There's another one there. So we have a pattern that is varied. We have tone, we have comparable forms of development going on. So that passes our C test in the victory model. Now, sideland development is always a risk. It's always a risk because you don't know quite how the council are going to react. Some councils hate sideland development and therefore you have to go about it one way. Some councils love it and you just go straight in for a planning permission. Happily, the government has given us a way to moderate some of that risk, and that is the permission in principle planning route. Now, permission in principle is still relatively new. We've had it for a couple of years in residential developments now, and in reality, it's still very misunderstood as a development process. I know some architects absolutely hate PIP, but we as planners absolutely love PIP because it resolves the immortal problem with pre-application. Pre-application is not legally binding, whereas a PIP is. Pre-application is often prohibitively expensive, whereas a PIP is limited in its fees. And pre-application can go on forever, whereas a PIP is time-bound to 5 weeks. Now, that's not a true time-bound. It can take longer than that. This one didn't. But that's down to the council. At least there is a time limit to hold them to, and importantly, an appeal process should you need to use it. In this case, we didn't. So here we have a house that presents itself and looks something like this. There is the house, there is the side extension that exists presently, and you can just see at the other end of the terrace run where the other extension is due to go. In fact, you can see it completed there. So we have everything we need as a starting proposition to ask the council the question, can I put a house on the end of this run? Now, based on the other approval, I think the answer would have been yes, and that is the answer that we gave. So let's go through some of the documents now and take you through the journey that this property went through the planning system. 2 applications here, permission in principle and technical detail, and we used both in sequence. So this is the house's planning history. You can see it on with Bristol City Council. There it is. As I said, one of the toughest authorities in the country and the home to the planning inspectorate. So it doesn't make life any easier. And you'll see 3 applications in sequence. The permission in principle there, the technical detail consent there, and now they're discharging planning conditions. And they're on their way through that discharge. In fact, that's done. So let's deal with the permission in principle first. Here it is. There is the permission in principle, and you'll say it is for the development of an additional dwelling to provide a maximum of 2 at this site. Now that's because PIP applications, you have to give a range. You have to give a 1 to 2 or 2 to 3 or 3 to 4 to allow the council to choose. If you don't give a range, you fix them on a certain number. So in this case, we gave them a number that we wanted. We wanted 2 dwellings on this site because in reality there's already 1 dwelling on the site. We wanted to add to that. Here's the decision notice. Permission in principle granted. Happy days there. And you'll see, if I scroll down, some conditions in line with the permission in principle process and the technical details consent that is required in order to make this one up to a full. Permission in principle plus technical detail equals full planning permission in exactly the same way. And you'll see that the conditions here are none. Null and void. No conditions at all. That's good. There's some advice. These are the approved plans. This is the consent you need, and this is what we've assessed it on. But it's not conditioned in the same way as a planning permission. A really good pre-application stab. This permission in principle costing the client £402 and a 5-week application process. It really did zip through the system. So we move on. There's the site location plan, and that is all the plans that were submitted. You don't need to provide any detailed plans for a permission in principle. You just need to provide a site and location plan. Downloaded from the interweb. There we are. Perfect. That's what permission in principle asks you to do. If we move on then to the technical detail, the next application in sequence, here it is. This was for the approval of the bits that are missing: scale, layout, landscaping and appearance for the construction of 1 2-story dwelling. And we can see here that planning permission was granted, the technical detail consent was allowed, and full planning permission was made up by the permission in principle and the technical detail. This route is really useful because you get the council to agree that you can extend the terrace or go into the sideland first, and then you go for the technical detail. You go for finishing things off. So here are the plans that were submitted to deal with the technical detail, what this thing is going to look like. And as you would come to expect, dear viewer, we know our comparable form of development is down the road. So that's exactly what we did. We put a comparable form of development in, hipped roof, 2-story house, long rear projection, lovely, windows in the side with obscure glass. This is what was replaced. And if I come down here, we have a very simple, very straightforward family room, kitchen dining area at the back, 2 bedrooms with a rear projecting wing. Very nice too. And a car parking space in the front. That's the block plan showing you some of the alterations the council asked for. They asked for some greening of the front forecourt, and in order to do that, they actually dropped the need for a car. So a car was taken away, both sides, because they actually wanted the greening more than they wanted the cars. Cycle storage in the back was added, and some information on the landscape treatment. So they wanted to get a quality of accommodation out of what was effectively one of their first permission in principle and technical detail pathways that they went through. And there is our grant of permission. Lovely. And this, as you would imagine, comes with some conditions. But importantly, just look at these dates and times, because it is really important. We've got a full permission here now. This is now made up to a consent. So technical detail plus the original PIP is now a full consent, and can do permission in principle up to and including 9 dwellings, and on any site up to a hectare in size. A hectare is 10,000 square meters. So in reality, you can look at very big sites to do this on, and it's very light touch in terms of the first application. We've got some conditions, and we've seen that they are on their way through, but not many conditions, and certainly nothing that we need to otherwise worried about. 13 in total, 3 of those the standards. So in reality, this was a very nice, straightforward addition to the side. And to go back through those points of principle, addition to the side where it's already been established that it can happen, where you've got other comparable forms of development in the street, and that's that compare. That C in the victory model is so powerful. Get that right, because if you're comparing what's gone on, you can not only get their end values, but you can get a really good steer on whether or not you're likely to get success. So, comparable forms of development. We have a permission in principle taking over from our pre-app. That gave us a legally binding decision, legally binding upon the council, that they would agree to the principle of development and access. So the car parking was agreed, the principle was agreed, and then we just had to deal with scale, layout, appearance, and landscape. In reality, scale is met for us, 2-story with a hipped roof. Appearance is met for us. That was very much a carbon copy of this house up here. Layout is met for us. We're not going to project forward. We are definitely going to project backwards. And landscape, that was subject to a bit of negotiation with the council, getting that landscaping plan all nice and set out for us. So that was sideland development. I hope you found that interesting. I've dwelled on it a little bit, but I've gone through it in the same order that I've gone through others, and I hope you find that interesting. If you're looking for sideland development to explore, then follow those precepts of, has it been done before? Can I get this piece of building to assimilate into the terrace without it looking odd? Can I get the right depth of plot? Can I get the car parking to work? Overall, is it a viable development prospect that I can make happen? If you follow those very simple precepts, then yes, you should be able to, albeit that some councils do hate this, they should be able to get you sideland development and make the thing work appropriately. I really hope that's been helpful. Like, subscribe, comment absolutely, please. I've received some absolutely fantastic comments, and I really do appreciate them. I appreciate them even more now than ever, because fundamentally I'm doing this to try and share information and share experience and show you how it's been done before. Have a great day, and I will catch you on the next Anti-Guru.